I swear to God, this will be the last Andrew Tate video I do on my channel. It will. I've done 3 now. This is the 3rd one, and I may or may not have changed my mind. In the first 2 videos, I called Andrew Tate an idiot, multiple times. God, Andrew Tate, what a dumbass. I think Andrew Tate is pretty fucking dumb. I've said some rather mean things about our bald-headed subject. Yeah, I'm Andrew Tate, and I hate women. I don't know if you've ever seen Andrew Tate's hair when he was a kickboxer. I do believe he still had hair. Here he is. There is the beautiful Andrew Tate with hair. It's rather funny. Andrew Tate is literally an elderly man. Andrew Tate's gonna be the most insecure person ever. What do you think of Andrew Tate? I don't think he's a particularly great person. He's lazy. He can't do anything for himself. He can't defend himself in public because he's not aware enough that there's someone behind him with a machete in a public place. And I think I may have changed my mind slightly. There's a video we're gonna watch now. It's a Piers Morgan video, unfortunately, but content is content, right? Before I go any further, I do want to say that I do not agree with anything that Andrew Tate thinks about women. I'm still holding firm on that belief that Andrew Tate is somewhat of a misogynist. He has a very old-fashioned traditional view of relationships and women, and it's not exactly up to speed, let's say. I did also notice some pretty major backlash on my last video about Andrew Tate. Just so you know, usually if your comment doesn't really add anything to the conversation, I'll delete it, because if it doesn't add anything to the conversation, you just look dumb in the comments. So don't comment shit like, oh, L video, look at you, bro, just look at you. L, hard to watch you, man. Bro cannot watch an hour-long video. He doesn't have the attention span for that. A little late to the party. I'll agree with that one. I was a little late to the whole Andrew Tate thing, because, oh, would you look at that? 2 months ago. It's my video talking about Andrew Tate. Average Discord moderator. My man's completely wrong. I'm a Discord admin. Idiot. L and L video literally add nothing to the conversation. You're just showing how boring you are in your comment. You're just kinda... You're basically just saying, hey yo, look, I can't come up with something creative to say, so I'm just gonna use the common Twitter insult. Comment something worth replying to, at least, because that way we can have a bit of fun in the comments.
Well, joining me now is Andrew Tate. His videos have been viewed billions of times online, but he's been banned from pretty much every mainstream social media platform, including Twitter. Andrew Tate, welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Your take on this, I think, is quite interesting, because you've been a victim of being... He's
wearing his earphone wrong.
Removed from social media platforms for your opinions. Elon Musk has dedicated himself, he says, to restoring free speech. Do you think that's going to include you, for example?
I don't think it matters if it includes me or not. I think what's important is that free speech is the #1 weapon against absolute tyranny. And although you cannot have complete free speech, because then conversations completely break down into asinine insult fests, I do like the idea of the changing of the guard when it comes to control over information.
The first point that Andrew Tate makes in this admittedly very, very short interview is a very good point, which surprised me. I have to admit that it was very surprising to hear Andrew Tate say something logical. What I mean by that is, when he's saying that free speech is good, but you can't have complete free speech, that actually makes sense. It does, if you think about it. I 100% agree that there should be free speech. Now, just to clear things up, I'm not American. I don't live in America, so American laws have absolutely no effect on me. I don't care about them, but sometimes I will talk about them in videos. So one of those laws is the whole free speech thing. You don't really hear many people here in Ireland talking about free speech, but I do think that free speech is somewhat important. It does allow us to, you know, have conversations without being censored, but not having too much free speech is also important. I mean, the ability for certain companies, like social media sites, to restrict certain words, like slurs, for example. I do agree with stopping people from saying slurs, because if you allow that, people will use it in a spiteful way. They will use it purely to annoy someone or hurt them. They'll use it purely just in a malicious way, you know. They will use it just to be malicious towards other people. So I think at least restricting certain words is good, but I do also think that free speech in and of itself is important for all social media platforms. I think social media censoring certain people because of their beliefs is kinda dumb. I don't know if I'm gonna get cancelled for saying that, but that is what I think.
Is it possible, Andrew Tate, to actually police something like Twitter, to be a platform for genuine free speech? Or is it so toxic and tribal now that whatever happens, you know, before we had all the people on the right screaming away that they were being no platformed and so on. Now you've got all the people on the left screaming that they're being diminished in some way. It's very tribal, very toxic. Can Musk cut through that? And if so, how?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult. There's always going to be one group of people who are extremely unhappy, but I think that anybody who's perspicacious enough to understand the truth of what's been going on in the world recently will know that the left and their narratives have certainly been protected for a very long time. And the universe has swings and balances, and God often restores balance to the universe, and perhaps it might swing the other way for a while. I truthfully am a person who believes that all points of view are extremely important, because as soon as you block points of view, you have absolute tyranny.
So basically what Piers Morgan is saying is that the right, or in other words, people who love tradition, have been basically given no platform for them to speak, which is not necessarily true. I don't 100% agree with that. I think there is a platform for them. It's Twitter. You can basically get away with saying anything on Twitter, especially now that Elon Musk is taking over. As long as you don't set your display name on Twitter to be Elon Musk, you'll be fine. But I'm also not 100% sure what Andrew Tate means by the left being protected, or their views being protected, because the things that people on the left are saying aren't inherently offensive. They aren't just offensive for the sake of it, and they don't necessarily try to specifically hate on a certain group of people. I do think, however, that people on the left, when they do hate on people on the right, and they do have certain malicious things to say about people on the right, they're less likely for that content to be moderated. Now, I don't know if that's actually how it works, or if that's just what I've observed, or what I've been told, but that's what I think. That's my opinion on the matter. I do think that the left, to a certain degree, has more freedom in what they can say and what they can get away with, but also the right says more things that shouldn't be said, in my opinion, of course.
And in a way, it's sort of self-defeating, isn't it? Because you carried on getting huge attention. It was interesting to me that when you came on the show, for example, we've had, I think, nearly 6 million people have viewed the whole interview that we did, which is a huge number of people, certainly far higher than watched it on conventional television. So you have a whole world out there online which operates away from social media platforms.
Yeah, I've been very, very successful in spite of them, but not many people can do that. I'm in a pretty unique position. But I think that everybody needs a voice to a degree, and social media platforms are now the most important platforms on the planet. They control information, and they influence real-world decisions, and they influence people's perception of reality. The last few years of COVID have been a perfect example of what happens when you censor one side of the argument and you only allow one point of view to be purported by the matrix in and of itself, and that's how you end up in tyrannical situations. I think you were just discussing that, Piers.
So I just want to get into something here. It's somewhat slightly irrelevant to the point that was just talked about there, but I have somewhat changed my mind regarding Andrew Tate's ban. Originally, I thought it was a great thing. I was going, oh yeah, finally, he's banned. This means he won't be able to spread his horrible, disgusting messages across the internet. Do I think he was banned for a good reason? Yes. Yes, I do. I think the fact that he still had access to all of these platforms for so long is crazy. Until I remembered that it wasn't him that did that in the first place. It was everyone else sharing his content that made him popular. It was a very similar case to Speed, Speed, where he didn't get popular from being discovered. He got popular from people sharing clips of him because he was just so absurd. People sharing clips of him, and then people going, oh my god, this guy's entertaining, this is hilarious, who the fuck is this? And then they go find his channel and they'd subscribe to him, and that's how he got popular. And it was very similar to Andrew Tate. It's a very similar case. So now that Andrew Tate's banned, there's still probably around about the same amount of content about him as there was before he was banned, except it's all kind of old content now rather than being new stuff, because he can't share any new stuff. The other reason I don't think he should have got banned is because it makes it very hard to make commentary videos about him, because there's no new stuff. This is the first new thing I've seen about Andrew Tate in probably 2 or 3 months. I haven't been looking very hard, I'll admit, but it is the first new thing I've seen about him in a very long time.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfectly valid point. You know, people have quite rightly, held me to task over some of the positions I took during the COVID pandemic, notably when the scientists said as a definitive fact that you couldn't transmit the virus if you had the vaccine. It turned out that wasn't true. And I based my observations on that supposed fact and said, right, well, in that case, if you refuse to be vaccinated, you shouldn't get the same rights as people who've been vaccinated. If it's true that if you're unjabbed, you can pass it on. It turned out, actually, there's not much difference whether you've been vaccinated or not. And at that point, I changed my mind. But I felt that there were a lot of people who were being deplatformed from Twitter at the time for questioning the validity of scientific statements, and they would then be a complete U-turn. So I do think it was a very interesting period, actually, for testing what free speech means.
It was actually worse than that. You're right, Piers, but it was actually worse than interesting, because what happens is when you censor an entire side of the argument and only allowed one side of the argument to have a voice, you are changing reality in real time. You are shaping the world. The only reason that scam continued as long as it did, and the only reason people didn't get to see their own parents get buried, and the only reason people sat and missed cancer appointments because they were scared of the common cold, was because they were censoring anybody who said anything contrary to the purported version of events that the mainstream media decided they want the entire world to swallow. It's beyond simply interesting, and it's beyond simply funny or coincidental.
Yeah, I mean, I will challenge you on one thing. It's not the common cold, right? COVID-19 has killed 6.6 million people. It is one of the most deadly viruses, certainly of our lifetime. So it wasn't the common cold, but I do think it is completely justified for people to say we should be more cautious, I think, about accepting during fast-moving pandemics the word of scientists as being sacrosanct, because on a number of things, from the use of masks to the efficacy of vaccines in preventing transmission, they did massive U-turns.
So they're just going off on a tangent now about COVID. I don't know why. It's basically over now. I mean, come on, guys. It's nearly 2023. COVID is in the past, basically, at this point. I mean, it's still kind of around, right? But it's not a big deal anymore, really. I will say, though, Piers Morgan is, to a certain degree, correct about the fact that it's not the common cold because of how fast it spread. Not necessarily because of how many people died. Because the majority of the people that died while they had COVID was because they already had a pre-existing issue, and COVID just made that worse. It wasn't necessarily COVID that killed them, it was their already existing problem that was made worse by COVID that killed them. So COVID by itself didn't kill that many people. Now don't get me wrong, it was still a pretty dangerous thing going around. You wouldn't want your grandparents getting it, you know. I wore a mask all the time. I got vaccinated because I understand how vaccines work. I studied biology for 2 years. I know how vaccines work. I got the boosters. A small bit of the reason why I got them was so I could get into places. I'd be able to go out and eat somewhere if I wanted to, without being told I couldn't because I didn't have my jab. But again, this is the whole, like, debate all over again that happened when they first brought out the vaccines. It's like, oh, are the scientists right? We don't know. No, they're not. Look, the COVID molecules can fit through the masks. Bro, it doesn't matter what size the actual virus is, if it's waterborne or airborne. The reason for that, right, is if you have your mask on, okay, and the other person has their mask on, and let's say you have COVID, okay, and you cough, the COVID virus is not leaving your body by itself. It's mixed in with, like, little droplets of water. It's hitting the mask and it's getting caught there, and it stops there, and then anything that makes it past the mask hits their mask and stops there, okay? So wearing masks scientifically did do something, and the vaccines definitely did something, because there are a lot less cases now than there were before people got the vaccines. But anyway, that's the COVID section over. I don't really care what you think of COVID. That's not the reason I'm making this video. I don't really want to see any comments about COVID because I genuinely don't care at this point. If you got the vaccine, cool. Well done, you got the vaccine. If you didn't get the vaccine, cool. Well done, you didn't get the vaccine. I genuinely don't care, okay?
I've read enough history books to know that the people who do the censoring are never the good guys. And they've been censoring a lot of arguments for a very long time in the name of good. They are weaponizing virtue, and it's always in the name of tyranny. Anybody who is out here trying to silence an entire side of an argument on any subject, whether it's COVID-19, immigration, anything else, they are the evil people who are out for absolute mind control of the populace, and they should be feared.
I certainly agree. I certainly agree that I think the healthiest thing for any democracy is for all views to be aired and debated. We seem to have lost the ability to debate. You know, when I interviewed you, yeah, we had a few fractious moments, but actually, I thought it was a pretty spirited debate between people who perhaps had, you know, preconceived views of each other. And I've got no problem interviewing you now about these because I think you have an interesting a take on this stuff. Okay,
first of all, of course, Piers Morgan doesn't have any issue having Tate back because 6.4 million views is not something to laugh at. That is a lot of views. Of course you would want to have him back on the show. Who wouldn't, alright? That's like your main source of views. I mean, me personally, my Andrew Tate video that I made like 3 or 4 weeks ago and uploaded last week, that is right now my second most popular video on my channel. So obviously that is what's gonna get views on paper. Anyway, I have no idea if this video is gonna get views. We'll see. But the other thing I want to say is Andrew Tate's point about censorship kind of makes sense to a certain degree. I don't necessarily think that the people who censor are the bad guys, as he puts it, but I do think that censoring is, generally speaking, a bad thing to do. But good people can do bad things, so that doesn't really mean anything.
And that's the key to life. When you reach that level of adolescence in your mindset where you can't handle any point of view that is contrary to your own, then you're truly a broken person. And that's what the internet is purporting. It's very interesting you said about Twitter being tribal. There's a large contingent of people on Twitter who simply cannot handle reading an opinion which differs from their own. And that is a degree of immaturity that we do not need adults to be functioning with in the modern world.
If there is anything that I want the people in my comment section on any of my videos to understand, it is that point that Andrew Tate just made. You absolutely need to be able to take points from both sides and make your own opinion with those. You cannot just listen to some group of people or one person and think everything that they say is correct. Everything that they say is absolutely correct. I think American politics, especially, is very, very black or white. It's like you're either on the left or you're on the right. You're either voting blue or you're voting red, and that's it. Okay, you don't get another option. It's like, what? Like, the politics here are certainly not perfect to any extent, but it's not like two groups of people fighting against each other to try and elect their representative. You've got maybe 6 groups, and everyone votes for a different person, everyone votes for different groups, everyone votes for different things. It's not like, yeah, did you vote left or did you vote right? Which of the 2 options on the multiple choice did you pick in that test? There's no intricacy to it. You're either that person or you're that person. And that's it. I think you need to be able to just say that you're your own person and you're not in those groups.
If you were Elon Musk, this idea of charging $8 now a month, whatever it is, to access the blue tick premium Twitter account, would you do that? Would you pay the extra?
I think that social media companies for a very long time have lived in an absolute fantasy where they've printed money from thin air by charging people for pixels, and they grew into these large conglomerates with too many staff sitting around doing nothing, having coffee breaks. And Elon Musk is a businessman. He's walked into the office and he's firing a bunch of people who are messing around doing nothing, and he wants his business to make money, as it absolutely should. And how he decides that happens is his prerogative. I don't see why we should sit and accept that a website needs 200,000 people sitting around discussing in long meetings, sitting on beanbags about policy of human rights of some garbage, when he's come along and said, no, I'm a businessman. We're going to charge for our service. We're going to reduce the number of staff. And we're going to be a functional, coherent company, as they should be. And it's his prerogative to do it, as he's bought the company. I think he can do whatever he wants.
So now we have a classic case of Andrew Tate avoiding the question. The question was, and I'll play it again. I'll just play it again.
If you were Elon Musk, this idea of charging $8 now a month, whatever it is, to access the blue tick premium Twitter account, would you do that? Would you pay the extra?
Piers Morgan asked Andrew Tate if he would pay the extra to have the blue tick. And then Andrew Tate went off on his rant, his tangent, about how Elon Musk is a businessman and he wants to get paid. He wants money.
Money.
He wants money, okay? Andrew Tate said, Elon Musk is a businessman. He walked into that office, he saw everyone sitting around doing absolutely nothing. He fired them all. And now he wants his money back because he spent $40 million on a company that makes no money.
We're going to reduce the number of staff, and we're going to be a functional, coherent company, as they should be. And it's his prerogative to do it, as he's bought the company. I think he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, because I remember the appalling censorship of the New York Post exclusive about Hunter Biden, the son of the president, about his laptop. This is 3 weeks before the election that Joe Biden won. He was heading, to a possible victory, but it was tight. And that story, they reckon, could have tipped it either way. But it was completely suppressed and censored starting with Twitter, then Facebook, then others. Twitter literally locked out the New York Post account for 2 weeks for breaking a completely true story. I thought that was shameful.
It's worse than shameful. It's worse than shameful. When you control information, you control the real world. They affect the real world in real time. They are genuinely affecting the reality people live in. They are not just a company. They're not just a social media platform. It affects absolutely every single person on the planet when it changes who is elected. I don't want to comment specifically on Hunter Biden or the laptop. I would never kill myself. But I don't think it's fair that they would hide certain key information that close to an election. And the fact that they've done that was done specifically to affect the world that we all live in. And we all have to suffer the consequences of those things. So to sit and say that these companies can just do whatever they want and they're private, etc. No, free speech is beyond important for democracy. It's important for the reality that we exist under.
Again, I don't really know that much about American politics, so I can't really comment on that. So I'm just going to draw attention to the fact that when Andrew Tate speaks, his top lip kind of goes... And I'm not entirely sure what the deal is with that. So that's the end of the interview. Regarding the title of this video, I don't necessarily think that Andrew Tate is a great person. He's not a god. He's not the all-knowing fucking guy that is going to teach you how to be a better person and how to be better than everybody else around you and how to get rich. He's not that guy. I do, however, think that Andrew Tate is slightly more clever than I originally gave him credit for. That doesn't mean I think he's intelligent. I just think he has a clever way of saying things to make it seem like he's being intelligent without necessarily actually being intelligent. Because you can be well spoken and still be an idiot. So, I don't know, if that changes your opinion, I still don't really like Tate that much. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't. I think what he says about women is ridiculous. I find it hard to ignore the fact that he's running an MLM that literally sells you a Discord invite. I don't think he's that great of a person. I think he's kind of a shitty person. But he does seem to have slightly matured since he was banned. So maybe, just maybe, being banned was a good thing for Tate. I'm not gonna say it definitely was. If you liked or disliked this video, just hit one of the 2 thumb buttons down there. Let me know what you thought. Leave a comment, but remember, be civil. Leave something that I can at least reply to, or that other people can reply to, so that we can have a conversation in the comments instead of it turning into just a cesspool of testosterone-filled guys trying to trick themselves into thinking that they're also the top G. And, you know, if you really like this video, consider subscribing, maybe. I only have 50 subscribers, so I would hugely appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 100, maybe sometime soon. If you want to check out another video that I did on Andrew Tate, that maybe my opinions are slightly different, it's right there. Oh my god, it's looming in the corner. Jesus Christ, look at it. Oh my god. Just fucking click on it. Thanks for watching.